I prefer it when brands aren't trying to shove ads down my throat. People can tie themselves in knots a little bit when they're trying to hide the fact that it's branded entertainment. And what I think creators have shown, and a lot of brands in the digital space have shown, is that audiences are way ahead of that when it comes to brands. IP absolutely still has a place in the media landscape, but I don't think it's any longer the most important currency.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another TellyCast. On this week's show, I'm joined by Joe Churchill, former digital commissioning editor for branded content at Channel 4 and now co-founder of Fan Club, an agency that's built itself around brands, creators and premium content and has become one of the clearest examples of what a modern digital-first business looks like in 2026. Fan Club helps brands behave like broadcasters and develops formats that feel native to social video rather than retrofitted from TV. Joe's got a front row seat to the shifts coming down the track in branded entertainment, so let's get into it. Hey, Joe.
Hello, thank you. That's a more succinct encapsulation of what we do than I've ever been able to come up with.
Brilliant.
So, yeah,
okay,
I'll use that.
Feel free, please. Yeah. Just drop it into AI and it'll work as a reminder. Welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Last time I saw you, we were in a very sunny Cannes, weren't we?
I know. I almost wore my winter version of my big yellow shirt.
Your big yellow shirt, yeah, which was great.
I thought I would just start to look like that was all I had in my wardrobe.
Well, you would have been on brand, which, I kind of quite like that. But so tell us about Fan Club then. I mean, we talked a little bit, but for anybody who hasn't seen that show and listened to the compilation shows that we had around MIPCOM, just give us a refresher about what Fan Club is as a business.
Yeah, great. Well, so Fan Club is a digital agency and we have an express mission, which is we turn brands into broadcasters, which is, can be broken down in lots of different ways, but effectively what that means is we're like a plug-in media partner for a brand. So we can help them through their social channels and through YouTube to act like a broadcaster, to connect directly with an audience and to grow an audience on their owned and operated channels. So in the same way that brands traditionally partner with media owners, whether that's like, print publishers like Condé Nast or broadcasters like Channel 4 or digital publishers like Lad, Bible and BuzzFeed, we offer everything that those partners offer, but we plug into the brand and we do it all for them on their channels. And I guess our USP or our kind of point of difference is that we ultimately grow them audiences. So when they work with us, they get something that's lasting value that lives beyond that campaign or that contract.
Yeah. And it's much more around becoming entertainment brands in their own right, as opposed to just advertisers and who are interrupting, whatever content you're watching on whatever channel it is.
Yeah. Well, actually, randomly, I was talking to somebody in a shop on the way here who asked what I did. And when I talked about brands becoming like broadcasters, she was like, oh yeah, I've followed a lot of brands this year and it's great to see what they're doing. And she was like, is it a good thing that brands are starting to make content like this? And it actually made me reflect for a moment. I was like, yeah, is it a good thing? I was like, yeah, no, I think it is a good thing, which you would hope, right?
But an affirmation of your own business, that's good, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so not often you get a chance to properly reflect. But, I think for me personally, as someone who is on these platforms myself, I prefer it when brands aren't trying to shove ads down my throat, but when they're just making something that's entertaining, that's good, that's useful, or that just has something of value to me. And I think, the more brands are leaning into that space, the more they're going to get, genuine, sentiment, like build community around their brands and ultimately kind of create an audience of like micro ambassadors who really care about what your brand has to say and what you're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've covered branded entertainment and brand funded programming and branded content and all these different phrases that we can use for this sort of sector over the years. And it seems like brands becoming publishers, become their own publishers or broadcasters, if you like, seems to be just a much more efficient and effective way for brands to communicate with their audiences and own their own audiences as well, than perhaps other developments in this space, because there's another area that's been developing is this unbranded content where brands are not involved or not they're funding the content, but they might be exploiting it in different ways, whereas the content you couldn't tell they were involved. So that's a very different approach, isn't it? And I suppose there's different different approaches for different brands might work. But to me, the brands as broadcasters approach seems to be a lot of companies that are doing very, very well. Footasylum, for example, and there's many examples of that. I mean, where do how when you speak to a brand who are interested in social media and creating their own channels and moving into this area, what's the biggest hurdles? What is there any real convincing you need to do, or have they already made up their mind that this is something that they want to do?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, every brand is different and every brand is on a different stage of their journey. I would say it kind of goes, traditional advertising on the sides of buses, on TV, things like that, through to working with publishers and partners where you're renting their audiences because you're kind of dipping your toe in that world of branded entertainment. And we're kind of the next phase on that journey, I think, where it's like, this is about owning your own audience. I think brands who've never done brand partnerships before, that takes a lot more convincing of why it's valuable and why they should be doing it themselves. You're trying to convince them kind of two things at once. A, why you should do branded entertainment at all, and then why you should be doing it on your own channels. Whereas brands who have kind of done the brand partnerships thing a little bit, or maybe they've worked with creators or they've done influencer partnerships, if it's less of a stretch to then say, actually, you should be really making a virtue of this and being proud of the fact that you're doing it, and so doing it on your own channels. But I would say there are lots of different hurdles as well. Sometimes it is, we've obviously been doing a big kind of roadshow and education piece around media agencies, creative agencies and brands themselves, and just telling them about our offering and how we do what we do and why we think it's valuable. And understandably, for some media agencies, the question they have is like, well, hang on, we're a media agency. Why are we going to buy media through you when we could just do it ourselves? Then again, it's for some media agencies that might be a bit of a hurdle that we have to get over. But it's about understanding or kind of working with them to help show where we can be really in the weeds of the content, the distribution, reading the data and then feeding that back into the content and adjusting the media plan accordingly, so that we are working every asset and every bit of media as hard as possible, all optimized towards audience growth. There's lots of great kind of champions out there who are really excited by this prospect. But you've got to convince them, then you've got to convince their brands on their roster.
Yeah. It's interesting you said that. I mean, 'cause if you're a media agency and you make your money out of selling media, and then your offer is actually create your own media or build your own media, isn't that just cutting them out of the equation?
Well, no, we're finding that actually they're really good people to be talking to because they have the partnerships budgets, essentially. They're working with their clients. A lot of media agencies are already really, really well invested in branded entertainment, and they want to be the ones helping push this forward. So we absolutely see them as a partner on this journey because they understand the clients. They have very good kind of long-term working relationships with them. They can help bring them on this journey, and also they can kind of educate us on the client on what they need to get out of this, and then we can figure out the best way to build a media plan around that. So absolutely, I would say they're a partner that we work with rather than someone we cut out. But of course, there are certain brands that we would go to directly. Maybe they don't have a media agency, and we absolutely work in that way as well. What's really encouraging is that we're finding that we're having really fruitful conversations in both the director brand and the via kind of media agency model.
And do you think? We've seen a few categories in particular, which is such as sportswear, leisurewear, etc. That has sort of been blazing the trail for this kind of approach. I mean, are we seeing many other categories sort of adopting this then, in terms of other brands moving into this space?
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good point, because until now, I think everyone thinks brands doing it themselves, and they think Footasylum, JD Sports, Pretty Little Thing, Boohoo Man. It's very much one brand category and one niche of content as well. But the dish, I think we can point to as like the gold standard in branded entertainment that is mass market and broad in its audience that it's building. And then it's really interesting to see people like M&S going into that space. They just launched a series on YouTube called Love That, which is, I think, trying to do similar job to what The Dish has managed to do, but with a bit more of a kind of magazine format, which is interesting. But then, there are brands that are really surprising, like QuickBooks doing a load of kind of creator content on their own channels, which, you would think accountancy software might be the last brand that you would approach with something like that. But actually, it really works. And they've also found some quite fun formats as well, like Max Fosh explaining how he carves up his income and how it works is like, that's genuinely something that I think an audience really cares about and wants to know, especially a young generation of people who that's what they aspire to now, is becoming creators. So, I think all of that is starting to show that we're just at that tipping point where it's starting to transition from youth culture brands to really every brand should be in this space. And there was a great stat that came out like last week, I think, that Evan Shapiro jumped on, which is the fastest growing, demographic on YouTube is the over 55s at the moment. And, that's not just my dad looking at people doing up old cars. Like, that is across the board. So, whoever the brand is, whoever they want to reach, the most effective way to do it is through these platforms. So I think we're going to just see a lot of momentum from more brands getting in there. And, well, obviously, I'm hoping very much to be kind of driving that momentum
at
as
the
much
forefront
as possible.
of that. And so you're 6 months old, right, as a business? Just over 6 or
just
7
about.
months?
Yeah.
And can you tell us any brands, any campaigns that you're working on?
Yes, we've got our first 2 campaigns, which are both in pre-production at the moment. The first, I can't mention the brand because it's not been announced yet, but it's a kind of appliance brand, and that will be going live in March next year.
Okay.
And then we are in pre-production with a beer brand called Primetime. We'll be going live with a series with them in January, which is called the Low Cal Cook-Off. Primetime are a low-calorie beer brand.
Right.
That's their USP. And so January feels like the perfect time for them to be getting into the content space.
Certainly does.
We're all hitting the gym. We're all trying to lose a few pounds.
Yeah.
But their kind of energy is all about it's beer but better. It's like, don't just try and like go yo-yo dieting or be really abstemious, but find ways to be healthier, make better choices, but without sacrificing the flavor or the fun. And we've got a really exciting show, I think, that kind of really encapsulates that.
Excellent. Okay. And do all of your shows, do they feature creators as talent then, or what? How do? I mean, obviously there's 2 campaigns that you're working on at the moment. I mean, do creators need to be baked into these sort of shows to make them work, or is that not necessarily the case?
Not exclusively. So naturally we work a lot with creators and have a lot of good relationships there. Also, they do obviously work really well on those platforms. So it'd be remiss of us if we just like totally discounted them.
Yeah.
But I would say there's quite a broad range. And at the moment, I mean, it's early days, but I would say it's roughly a 50-50 mix in the briefs that we're talking about between more traditional kind of legacy talent, but in the social space, and those kind of digital native creators. What I always found at Channel 4, and we try to do quite a lot, is have almost a combination in each series where you have someone that is really speaking to that YouTube first audience, and then someone who was a bit more Channel 4 in that case. But I think that kind of chemistry works quite well when you bring somebody who's not known for YouTube into the YouTube space, but partner them with someone who really kind of knows that dynamic and that vernacular.
Yeah.
But one of the projects that we're doing at the moment is very much creator-led, and the other one, it has a more kind of legacy talent at the heart of it.
Okay.
And I think the thing that really dictates that is the brand and the audience they want to reach, and it's all really kind of built around that.
Yeah. So 2026, looks set to be a really exciting time for your sector. I mean, certainly for digital first studios, and for there's lots of opportunity around the World Cup and major events that are happening next year. What's your outlook? I mean, I'm going to ask you for some predictions then for 2026. I mean, Clearly, you're going to predict that that Brands Broadcast is
becoming
going
broadcasters.
to be a big
That's
thing.
the only thing that's going to happen.
But we will come back to that. But what other sort of key trends that are you sort of expecting to sort of pop off in 2026?
Yes, we jump on the trends that were already in my other predictions.
Yeah, you can talk about anything that you like. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the collab posting on YouTube is going to make a change. Like, I think that's really exciting because I think it's ways of sharing audiences. Whereas obviously that's been going on the short form platforms for quite a while, and it's a really good way of kind of migrating audiences across from a creator's channel to a brand's channel or from a broadcaster's channel. And I think being able to do that on YouTube, which is the platform where brands can behave the most like broadcasters, offers all sorts of opportunities. Because I think, especially where, creators, if a brand wants to be on a creator's own channel, they'll understandably be very protective of that, because that is their that's their identity. That's what they're known for. And so brands can only really, they'll kind of give them over a budget, and then it's like, you do your thing with it. But there's not really any kind of input the brand can have. And being able to collab post on YouTube, I think will make a lot of difference in that you'll be able to get creators to appear on stuff that is brand owned content, but you may be able to negotiate that they cross post it to their YouTube, even on their YouTube shorts, and it allows you to kind of access their audience without it being tied into, like, it has to be exactly your editorial throughout the whole episode.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a really exciting development.
And that's a relatively recent development on YouTube, isn't it, for long form content in particular?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think that's in the last kind of month or two
that's
happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really hoping to be able to use that.
And for people who don't necessarily understand what a collab post is, that is essentially bringing your content, allowing your content to be surfaced on your collaborating partners' feed, essentially.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of great creators that are already doing it, where previously it might be like KSI is going to appear in a video on Nico Emilana's channel, but that'll only appear on his channel. Whereas now, if they do that, that will get posted on both of their channels. So the creators both get the value of the video, but they also get that shared audience. So it's a really mutually beneficial thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see why they've made that change. I think it really benefits the creators, and we'll definitely have a play around with how we can make it work for brands as well.
Yeah, well, certainly for brands, they're looking at creators with 2.5 million followers or a huge audience. It's like, that's our audience. How do we get to them? This is a relatively neat answer to that issue, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what else now? I mean, you've been, obviously, before Fan Club, you were at Channel 4 for a number of years as commissioner on the branded content side of things. In general, how do you see the branded entertainment industry moving forward in 2026, particularly in the digital space?
Yeah, so I think it's... So I feel like in the last couple of years, we've had some really big milestones of massive, like, YouTube shows that have then gone on to become streaming shows. Like Inside is the kind of prime example of that.
Yeah.
I think the next kind of milestone is in branded entertainment, is in a big branded show that's a digital hit becoming a linear or streaming show. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if The Dish ended up on Channel 4 or ITV.
Me neither.
I think, and I think that would be amazing, and they would kill for, the kind of audiences that they're getting. So I think when that happens, that will be a real kind of shift, I think, in the mindset of a lot of the kind of legacy industry people. And, what I really hope happens is I think a lot of... the old guard, I guess, of broadcast kind of hold their nose about branded a little bit.
They still do, don't they? They still do. I mean, that used to drive me mad. What it used to drive me, when I was a PR before I started TellyCast, whenever I was working with a production company client who said, we've just made a show for Red Bull or whatever, the TV trades wouldn't touch it, because it's like, and it was that overall industry kind of looking down the nose at branded entertainment, branded content. It's like, well, why? What does it? And it's like, well, there was this sort of sense that it wasn't pure entertainment in some way, it was like sullied by a brand being involved in it, which I could never get my head around. But does that still exist?
Well, look, and no shade to Channel 4, which got a lot of love for that place still, and all the people there. But I think there was a slightly an undertone, definitely, of snobbery towards branded entertainment.
Yes.
I would say that is changing. Like, there's definitely a shift underway, and they had the cancer doctors with cancer research that came out recently. It's basically like the people who are finding the cures. It was like a series about that. That was branded entertainment. They threw their weight behind it. It did really well. It got a load of press. That's great. But I think my slight bugbear is that I think people can tie themselves in knots a little bit when they're trying to hide the fact that it's branded entertainment. And what I think creators have shown, and a lot of brands in the digital space have shown, is that audiences are way ahead of that when it comes to brands. Audiences are used to all day, every day being, bombarded with stuff from brands.
Yeah.
When they see a brand putting out a piece of entertainment, if they go, this is from JD Sports or this is from Waitrose, they're like, of course it is. Happy days.
Yeah.
And then you move on, and as long as you're showing them something entertaining, they'll stick around.
Yeah.
And creators are brilliant at that. They have like an ad read message, but they make sure they put it in a way that's funny. Like, a lot of the time, it elevates the content rather than like disrupting it or distracting the audience. And I think it means that you're actually building trust there, because it feels like you're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. And I think occasionally, and we definitely came up against this at Channel 4, we would have to find very kind of subtle ways of shoehorning in a brand, or like getting it in a way that's editorially justified. When if we'd have just gone, we're here with Dulux, it'd have been like, Dulux is happy, we're happy, now let's get on with the show, and you don't have to worry about the rest of it. I think, as I say, I think that's changing.
That was from an editorial point of view, wasn't it? That wasn't from a regulatory point of view.
And not to get too diverted into the technicalities of that.
We won't go too much into the weeds on that. I promise. Yeah.
But no, Channel 4 applies the spirit of Ofcom to all social branded entertainment, and the Ofcom guidelines for branded entertainment are like, they're guidelines for linear first and foremost, but also I think they are quite outdated, which means that they're nowhere near keeping up with the stuff that's going on the platforms, which when you're commissioning for digital does make it a bit tricky, because you're having to do stuff, and the platform would be fine with it, the audience would be fine with it, but because we're working in quite a TV way, there's some guidelines that wouldn't be fine with it. So, and I totally understand the rationale behind having that, but it feels like the way the world has moved on from there. But as I say, I think that is shifting. I think it's shifting at ITV. It's definitely shifting at Channel 4. And so I think we're on a kind of good trajectory with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's my way of not putting any digs in.
I saw that. That was very, very deftly done. So we've just seen Angry Ginge win I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. We've seen the rise of creator talent over the last 2-3 years, and it's a really exciting time. I mean, we've also seen lots of agencies and the talent fees rising massively as well. How do you square that circle then when it comes to working with brands and creators? Because obviously you have definitive budgets that you can't move on from. I mean, are you finding there is a squeeze on talent costs at the moment in this space?
What I am finding is that, I mean, yes, it's kind of in some ways, I think, yes, it is a little bit the Wild West still, because talent fees, yes, they've absolutely gone up over the last few years in a kind of meteoric way, but also in a way that it's very difficult to track and to kind of keep across. So what I've been doing a lot more proactively is building relationships with agents, really kind of understanding where they are with their talent, and having a kind of a bit of a kind of spreadsheet, not a literal spreadsheet, but like in my head of like who the talent are that we really like and really want to be working with, and roughly what their fees are, so that when we're working on briefs, essentially, we're never putting anybody forward that we don't know we could get them or someone kind of equivalent to them.
Yes.
So I think, it is tricky, but I think the way to navigate that really is to keep on top of it and have agency relationships.
Yeah.
Which was never, with my old Channel 4 hat on, it wasn't as crucial because that was the indies having those relationships. So it was a slightly more indirect thing.
Yeah.
But and I think it's kind of fair enough as well. They know their value, and they know their audience, and so I think it's impossible. It's important not to.
Well, that's the thing. The difference is you're buying their audience as well, or you're buying access to their audience, should I say?
Yeah.
So that's a sort of a slightly different way of quantifying it, isn't it? Rather than just having some talent on telly.
Yeah.
And just one final thing on talent as well. I mean, do you, when brands are involved, some of the more partnership-driven talent formats might be, the creator, because of the low production costs, there may be cut in as a deal. There might be a sort of a deal which makes sense, that creator's going to give X amount of their time, but obviously they want to work with a company that's going to build that brand and they can all, be successful going forward. And we've seen more and more of that happening. Does that tend to work in the branded space, or is it much more of a case of a much more simple kind of transactional discussion?
It can work in that way. There's definitely a bit of a distinction between some creators are very used to just being given a budget and be like, you're promoting this brand, do your thing, post it on your channel, and it's a kind of lump sum. And what we're doing is obviously it's a bit more of an involved production. It's more kind of formatted. It's like broadcast adjacent entertainment, and so then it's about negotiating. This is an appearance fee, like it's for your time, and we're not contracting you to post about it, which is why it might not be quite as much in your pocket because we're doing all of the production and all of this other stuff around it. But ultimately, then what we're building is affinity between that brand and that creator that could then, and often does, like blossom into either like an ambassadorship or further stuff that they do, or they do something direct with them, on their own channels. So there's lots of different ways that it could work. There are also obviously, there's really like great players in this space, in the kind of vodcast space, which is definitely having a bit of a moment, and I'm sure that's going to increase in the next year. People like Platform who are doing very interesting things where they're building kind of IP around a talent and then bringing brands to that. And I'm sure there's going to be, in the future, there might be talent and a brand launch a channel together. Like I could definitely see that, that's something we'd be definitely interested in doing. I'm sure everyone else is kind of thinking in that space as well. It's that, talent's never not going to be an important part of it. It's never going to be really straightforward. Like there's just a list of rates and you're just like, that's them for a day.
Of course. So looking again forward to 2026, I mean, one of the biggest developments in this space, in the space of social video, has been microdrama over the last year or 2 years. Certainly, and I'm talking, the awareness of this is in the industry in the UK, whereas other parts of the world, it's obviously already hugely successful and established businesses. Could you see a brand-funded microdrama, becoming successful in 2026?
Yes, I can. Well, I'm working on one, in fact.
Okay.
So, because STV are the partner who invested in Fan Club. They're obviously traditional broadcaster and traditional broadcast studios. So what's great about that is I'm in the same building as all these indies who are absolute genre specialists. So with one of those production companies, we're developing up a micro drama series with a view to take it out to brands. And what we really want to do, because they're making shows for Netflix, they're interested in micro drama, but their issue is it's quite soap opera-y and telenovela-y, which and I get why it is like that, but what we'd like to do is try and find a way to really elevate it and turn it into something that could win awards, that hopefully we'll get a big name star involved in. And I think that, so yes, I think that will definitely happen. I hope we're the ones to do it.
Well, it feels like the next step, doesn't it, in many ways? And we've seen Fox Entertainment investing in Holy Water, and they've already said that AAA talent from Fox is going to be coming into some of their micro dramas over the next year. So it feels like a real one of these is going to really pop off and potentially create another sort of subset of this whole exciting developing genre. So just thinking about what brands are asking for now that they perhaps weren't asking for a couple of years ago. I mean, obviously you're going to say, but we want our own channel.
They're all asking that. All of them. They're banging on my door.
So thinking about 2026 and how brands are approaching this whole space, is there anything that you'd specifically highlight that they're looking for now that they might not have been looking for, say, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think particularly when brands are interested in branded entertainment, they want to know, beyond social, beyond this series, what can this become? So we talk a lot about we're creating IP here. How then can that IP become super valuable beyond the campaign window?
The rights question.
So does it become a live event? Could it be experiential? Could we turn it into some merchandise or a book, or so with pretty much all of our pitches that we put together now, we always think long term, where could this go and what could this be? And I think that's something that brands are more alive to than ever.
So again, coming back to predictions for 2026, you recently wrote in The Drop that you're looking at potential lot of mergers, a lot of broadcasters buying up digital studios potentially. What do you? I mean, could you expand on that a little bit in terms of what you expect to happen from a corporate perspective in 2026?
So, I mean, I think we can see it. If you look macro at the industry, you look at Netflix and Warner Brothers, there's a huge mass consolidation happening across the board, and I think that's kind of trickling down to our industry. And I think there's also a lot of big players in the TV space who are clearly looking at digital, getting into digital, whether it's by hiring people to lead the charge or buying studios. Global just bought the Fellas Studios. So I think it's clearly, you can see anecdotally all of these different examples. I think what's going to be really interesting is who has the patience to really stick with it and kind of commit to something that is sustainable long-term growth. Because I think there's lots of ways that you can short-circuit your way to an audience and to whether it's buying channels, whether it's betting big on massive talent. But I think a lot of those things, they can be very costly, whether they're costly up front or they're costly down the road as creators become more expensive. But anyone who's kind of in this world knows that the key to success is high quality, consistency, and really being in it for the long game, and just committing to that audience, building that audience. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, which is taking that approach to brands and saying look, if you commit to this, the sky's the limit. This can really become huge. And I think the thing that I see, we're speaking about IP absolutely still has a place in the media landscape. But I don't think it's any longer the most important currency. This used to be the thing that everyone valued above above all. But now I think audiences have replaced that. With the distribution with the democratization of distribution, anyone can build an audience, and that is the thing that people can commercialize on their channels.
Yeah.
Your format is very difficult to protect when anyone can kind of copycat it or make a few changes,
Yes.
but no one can steal your audience.
Yeah.
So
there haven't been that many
Yeah.
really original formats coming through, have there? That have really, I mean, a lot of them have been relatively similar to large TV brands that we've seen, really pop off in the last kind of couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And like with a different tone of voice and different kind of energy to it, and like feel a lot more anarchic, which is great. But yeah, I think the studios and the big players who really understand that audience is the new currency, they'll be the ones that win in this new space. And anyone who's really thinking like, no, actually, this is all about clinging onto IP, I think they might come a cropper.
That's interesting. But you're still saying digital studios, you might find the bigger distribution companies taking a shortcut and looking at buying up these digital specialists. We might see a bit more of that in 2026.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Buying studios and buying channels, I think, will be the way.
And now it's time for Story of the Week, where my guests get to nominate the content industry news story that's caught their eye in the past few days. Joe, what's your story of the week?
Well, it's the AI bubble that everyone's talking about, which I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole on. I think it's really interesting. I mean, obviously AI, it is, it's like the internet. It's not going away, but I think there clearly is a bubble, and so there's going to be a massive correction. And I've been reading a lot about the amazing graph that someone did that shows that all of the big players are kind of buying each other's stocks, shares, and wares in a kind of economic virtuous circle, which is massively inflating the value of all those companies.
Yeah.
They're basically investing in each other, and then the company that makes all the chips is selling all the chips to the people who make all the data centers, who are selling their data to OpenAI, who are buying all of the shares in the chip company, and it kind of goes round and round. Yeah. So I'm just quite interested in what's going to happen in the fallout from that. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's just from a product perspective. I mean, it seems to be me every week that there's a new. The new Gemini Nano Banana, I think it is, that launched like last week. So many experts. I mean, there's a lot of AI experts on LinkedIn, right? So it's like a whole new subsection of
Do you mean
LinkedIn.
Like they're experts who are actually AI, or they're experts in AI?
Well, they're experts in AI that are probably using AI to post. But I'm seeing that, it's almost like a horse race when, a new version gets released, whether it's 5.1 of ChatGPT and then Nano Banana. They're leapfrogging each other, on an almost weekly basis. So it's really interesting to see, to think how anybody can actually compete with Google when you've got Gemini baked into it, and I think ChatGPT has sort of stolen a lot of the headlines over the last few years, but it now seems to me that their AI game seems to be moving ahead in many ways. But of course, that might be better at reasoning or a better image generation than ChatGPT. I mean, as I say, we're probably best speaking to an AI expert about that. But it seems so fluid, this market, and fast moving, obviously, that it's very difficult to sort of know. If you were to buy shares in one of those companies, how the hell do you value that, and who do you stick your bets on?
Well, and when's it going to be profitable? Because at the moment, we would all have to be paying like thousands of pounds a month in subscriptions for them to be even breaking even.
Yeah.
And so they're losing money hand over fist. But also, with things like the internet, the more advanced it got, the cheaper the technology got. But so far, with AI, the more advanced it gets, the more expensive it gets. So it'll be really interesting to see, like, at what point does the price come down? Because at the moment, it's just like, it's crazy.
I think I get the sense that if you Google or Microsoft, you'll be kind of all right. But
too big to fail.
Too big to fail. Yeah. Okay. Well, and what about Hero of your Week then? Have you got a person that you can sort of give a light glazing to?
Yeah, my hero of the week is Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor of New York, because not only because he's like incredibly charismatic, like has some amazing policies, but his rise was in no small part down to his social game. He had like incredible videos. His wife did all of his branding, and like the logos are amazing. But like they really understood how to use those platforms and to like, you know, build buzz and like get people excited. And I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that to be a politician, your social game needs to be on point there, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And well, talking about politicians, who or what do you want to throw in the bin this week?
Not a politician, but
Right.
probably an aspiring politician. Grok. Grok can get in the bin.
Oh, Grok, right.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
we're back to the AI. Right, okay. Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that it's so kind of clearly tooled up to be like ultra like right wing and terrifying, but also just the hilarious ways that Grok, no matter what you ask it about Elon Musk always comes out on top. So someone asked it, who was funnier, Jerry Seinfeld or Elon Musk? And Grok was like, well, whilst Jerry Seinfeld's very good at observational comedy, Elon Musk really takes the biscuit for his like crazy disruptive meme-led comedy. And you're like, okay, Grok,
You know,
let's get you to bed.
There's a room somewhere dedicated to making sure that Grok, speaks well of Elon Musk and Tesla and all his other interests.
Yeah.
All right, Grok's going in the bin. Joe, thank you very much for coming on TellyCast. It's been brilliant to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
And wish you all the best with those two campaigns. You said prime time. Is it coming out in January? So Local Lager. I might be on the phone to request a couple of samples there. And good luck with your other campaign as well. So and indeed with all of 2026.
Cool. Thanks very much, Justin.
Well, that's about it for this week's show. TellyCast was produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. We'll be back very soon with a special 2026 prediction show for the world of social video. So watch out for that one. In the meantime, stay safe.